Hello, 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 my lovely gems, and welcome to Gemslifelive, and we gonna get into some things. Friday, Ricky Dread. We love hip hop. Gemslife Media. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
Perfect. So anyway, I have a few questions for you. Like, obviously you're out and about. Everybody knows that you're out there doing your thing, but I want to get into a little bit about like where you grew up, where you're from. Is it true that you're from Montreal?
I am. On the south side of Montreal.
South side. That's okay. So I've been to Montreal. My cousin lived in Montreal.
Yep.
She lived at Lapierre.
Okay.
Okay. So in relative, like anywhere near there?
Lapierre, if I'm not mistaken, is not too far from where I grew up.
Okay.
I grew up in an area called the South Shore, like I said, right? It's specifically a neighborhood called S.A.R.S, right? It's a suburban neighborhood. My mom moved us there from when I was really, really young. She grew up, or when she moved to Montreal, she was staying in the ghetto over there.
Okay.
It's called S.A.R.S, right? Very popular place. But when I was really maybe 3 years old, she moved us to a house in S.A.R.S. Me, my mom, two of my aunts, and we just all grew up in the house over there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So are you an only child?
I am.
Oh, that kind of explains a little bit. So, okay. So you grew up in Montreal. Now, when did you move from there? Did you move somewhere else before you came to Toronto, or did you come right to Toronto?
I moved to Toronto in 97.
Okay.
Right. But as far as before moving to Toronto, my mom always used to bring me back and forth to New York City, right? Specifically the Bronx. And then I have a bunch of family in Brooklyn as well. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it's because our family's from Barbados, right? On my mom's side of the family. And my dad's side of the family is from Ghana, but I don't have a connection with that side of the family. I didn't grow up on that side. Okay. Right? So it was just me and my mom. So all the family that she has from Barbados all moved to, or maybe 90% of them moved to New York City. Wow. Right? And her and just a couple of others just moved to Canada. Moved to Canada. Yeah.
So why did they, do you know, have you ever asked her why she decided to choose Canada over the United States?
I never actually asked her, but I always assumed just from the experiences that I would have from both places that where we lived was just way better than where I would go visit my family. Okay. Right? When I go visit my family in New York, that's where I would see mice in the house and roaches and different things. Not to say that my family was in the slums, but New York in a whole, especially in the 90s, was very grimy. Grimy. Even if you lived in a nice place. Right? So grimy. Yeah. So that's where I would see the grimy stuff. And then, I'd go outside, as I started becoming a teenager, I'd go outside and get into trouble over there, come home, bring some of that same fuckery that that I'm learning from the New York streets. And back then we were so infatuated with the States. Yes. Right? Where it was I felt like I was so much cooler because I had that connection with New York. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So you are, though. That is cool. It is cool. But now that I'm older, I'm okay, we're all the same. You know what I'm saying? We all go through what we go through. But back then I was I just came back from New York. I used to come back with new clothes and always feel I'm up on the new things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we'd always go to Buffalo and get shit for cheap. I remember those days. Yeah. When your auntie or your grandma come back, oh, I got your shoes because they were only $25, $30. Yeah. And you're getting some sick Nikes, okay. Cross colors, all that shit. Oh, you ain't got that yet. You know what I'm saying? No. Because, Foot Locker only has what they have. Yeah. Back then, of course, because it's not it was bootleg shoes the way it is now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So moving along. This is actually interesting. Without getting into the podcast thing yet. Okay. What made you call it We Love Hip Hop? I feel like it was a suggestion from my homie Sid.
Okay.
Right? Salute to him, aka Gramps.
Okay.
Because he's given me a lot of name ideas over the years. I'm not gonna be I can't say I'm completely sure, but I know when I was starting the podcast around that time I used to be going around to his house a lot and you know, talking shit, just telling them about all the different plans that I had.
Yes.
So I feel like I might have had that conversation with Gramps. Salute to Gramps, right? That he might have been like, yeah, we love hip hop. You know, we were kicking names around and that came up as the best name.
Okay.
Right?
So now getting back to what I wanted to ask you, growing up, especially now you're telling me Montreal, which still is heavily into hip hop.
Yes.
Some of my favorite artists and shows have been in Montreal. Like what made you fall in love with hip hop? When did you fall in love with hip hop? If you could pinpoint how old you were.
Probably about 12. Maybe a little bit, maybe younger.
Can you pinpoint the artist?
I know exactly the time when I found out about hip hop. I think it was around 84, 85. LL Cool J had I'm Bad out, the track from his Bigger and Deffer album. Right?
Yes.
And I was in Barbados at the time visiting family, watching the TV over there. And they only had a few channels on the TV. And one of the channels that was showing had some music videos playing. And that music video came on. And I was like, holy shit. You know what I'm saying?
Something you've never seen before.
Yeah, like the sound, just the way LL was like moving around the room and stuff like that. The cool Kango and matching tracksuit that he had. I was like, what the fuck? Like, he looked like me. You know what I'm saying? He's a young black guy. I was like, this is the shit. You know what I'm saying? Because at the time in the 80s, like Madonna, all these different people were on the TV, on the radio, but like, we weren't really seeing us like that. So then that's when I started falling in love with hip hop. And then I started getting into Run DMC, the Fat Boys, and that became like tapes that I would get, right?
So living in Montreal, did you speak French? Were you able to speak English as well? Did you understand English or was it?
Oh, okay. Let me stop. I'm Anglophone.
Oh yeah. Okay, wait.
In Montreal, there's two different types of people.
Yes.
There's Anglophones and Francophones.
Okay.
Right?
Can you explain?
So Anglophones are people who are born with speaking English. Their family might immigrate from some other country, and the first language that they learn how to speak is English. Or you're born in the first language, you know, like I'm off from Barbados. Like they speak English in Barbados, just with accent, right? So my mom never learn how to speak French.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. You know, my aunts, their French is okay.
So
you know
how was that growing? Because I know when I was in Montreal, they were rude because I couldn't speak French.
Yeah, it could be like that. It could be like that. You know,
you're getting a taxi and these motherfuckers acting like they don't know where to go.
Yeah, in the 80s and early 90s and stuff like that, it was easier for people to get jobs not completely being bilingual. That kind of changed over the years. And just to give you a quick breakdown, like, you know, Bill 101, which is like a bill that they had in Quebec to make sure that French is the first thing that's the first language spoken in Quebec.
Yeah.
The signs, if you have a sign for like, and it has like an English business, the translation of it, the French translation has to be 3 times bigger on the outside of your store. And then the English translation is smaller on the bottom. Like things like that to preserve the culture, right? But that came along kind of after. So like my mom and people like in that generation, they could get away with not knowing how to speak French. They could get away with it. Right?
Yes.
But my generation and generations after, you better know how to speak French or you're not going to really be able to make some real money. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah. So, but the Francophones, they're people who they're born French. They speak French, and and some of them don't know how to speak English at all. You know, the younger generations, as the years go along, they now all know how to speak English, but they're Francophones.
I get it.
So don't ever get it twisted at like Montrealers, we're all just French.
No. And that's why I wanted you to explain that, because I've experienced that myself going there. So, and I mean, they do have a big hip hop culture. Like there's a bunch of big rappers coming out of Montreal and Ottawa right now.
For sure.
And they've always been there.
Yeah.
Kind of like we've always been here. Like comparing to New York. Yeah. You know, we've been here. Yeah. Like you remember the Project Bounce days. You remember, what is it? CKLN. Yeah. Like these are the type of things. Now, okay. So let me get into my next questioning. With that being said, now being a rapper yourself, people know you for being a We Love Hip Hop podcaster, but some people, like the people that are your day ones and people from that era, know you as a rapper. To be honest, without revealing anything about myself like that yet, you were the first person for me personally that showed me how to write an invoice for studio time. Really? Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow.
And I thought that was like a big thing for me because I was so young and it was something that stood out, you know, from my travelings to different studios that really stuck with me. So like without getting into the whole group yet, but you also managed artists.
Yes.
Being an artist yourself and then now managing artists. What was the difference, the main difference for you, and what did you like better and why?
It was kind of a tough thing. Like I liked managing artists, right? And I enjoyed being a rapper. And over the years, I managed a lot of artists. I managed one of my first people I managed, an artist named Bones. I managed a woman named Black Pearl from Montreal.
Yes.
I managed a guy named Buns who used to play college basketball or university basketball, right? And then he was doing basketball and rapping at the same time. So we put out a bunch of mixtapes. And then I got to Scandalous and then the whole Empire.
And the whole Empire.
You know what I'm saying? And by then I was doing more than just managing. I was doing executive producing because in 1999, my homeboy Raz and I started the label AWOL Records, Inc.
Yes.
Right? And we got it incorporated and everything and all the paperwork for that. And I don't know if it's this guy.
You got that tat.
I got it tatted on my arm.
Hey!
Because it's like, it's the thing that I do business under.
Okay.
Like to this day.
To this day.
Yeah.
So that's your LLC?
It is. It is.
Wicked. So, okay, you didn't answer my question though. What did you like better? And why?
I would say the rapping better. Because after the last experience that I had with the management, and not to say that it was a bad experience, but it was a lot of work. You know, managing artists, you have to make it. I don't want to diss artists, but it's kind of like babysitting in a way. You have to like, give yourself to like always make sure 24/7 you're like there for that artist. You know what I'm saying? Because the music industry is a 24-hour gig.
Yes.
So I enjoyed the rapping better. But the one mistake I will say that I did back in the day, and not something that I regret, but I feel like it was not the best idea, was being a rapper and trying to be an executive producer or manager at the same time.
And managing at the same time. I was going to ask you what you would do differently.
Yes.
So at that moment, but I mean, what could you have done? You were already amalgamated as a rapper.
Yeah. But then you always still have your dream of being a rapper that's there.
You love it.
And it can interfere, even though I feel like I did my best to get the artists that I had to where they were at the time. You are still a rapper, right? If you can get a verse on there, you're going to do it. If you don't rap and you're working at somebody's business behind the scenes, now you're going to only focus on the business. You're not going to, in your spare time or allocate time to making your own tunes in the studio too. Like that's a whole other fucking job and managing people, right? I was thinking about Jay-Z and Master P and all these guys, but Jay-Z had Biggs and Dame that were doing all the business. All he had to do is do slight business and stick to his craft, right?
Yeah.
So that would be something I do differently.
So in managing Empire. So for those who don't know, there was a huge rap group in Toronto called Empire, and they're most notably known outside of Toronto probably for the S.A.R.S mixtape series.
S.A.R.S.
Right? I wanted to know, because that was a crazy time. It was amazing for us because even though we didn't fulfill necessarily our dream to the extent that we wanted to, we went through so many good times. And it was before internet, guys. This is before phones being held out at presentations. We were actually living the moment. Yeah. So
for the most part.
Right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, what are, from those Empire days, what are some of the most, like some of the highlights, okay, of that part of your life? Like something, a story that maybe not everybody would know.
Wow. Besides like the fights that we've had at like venues and stuff, right? Clearing out venues and nights over. Like there was a couple of those, right?
A lot of those.
Yeah. I'll give you one.
What was it? System Soundbar. Lots of moments there.
Yeah, we've had some moments there. We've had some legendary like show openers too.
Can you name a few?
Yeah, like we opened for MOP. Sick. You know, some of the like Canadian artists like Cardinal. Like we did a Master Ace show that was amazing.
Dope.
You know what I'm saying? Like we performed at Royce the 5'9".
Sick.
Yeah, like we've done a lot of like opening acts at like big venues and stuff like that because Empire was cooking at the time, even before I got in. Yeah, like they had a buzz that was so big that they needed the direction, and everybody was saying, "Yo, those guys are so good, man. If they just had the direction, they'd be out of here."
But that's what I want to talk about.
And that's when I came in.
But that's what I want to talk about. Look at it now. Like, look what even you're doing with yourself now in this social media era. Look at the work that we were doing back then. Yeah. That was like what independent artists are doing now. Because now it's cool to be independent. Yeah. Before, like even major artists are independent now. And they're trying to figure it out. Yeah, we've been known. So can you imagine if you guys would have had social media? What do you think that would have done?
Well, we did. That's the thing, Gems. We had social media. But the early social media.
Yeah, too early. I'm talking about today's social media. You guys would have
advantage of it. We took advantage early. Like back in the days, like the crew, because it was a big crew. There was 5 mans, like, and then or 6 mans, and then we had like the entourage that was with us too. And they would all add in, like they get into the community center that we'd hang at and fucking get on the laptops, 6, 7 mans, making up MySpace profiles, and we were freaking out the profiles, like adding our songs to the like 6, 7 songs on the shit and making the background sick. And we figured out how to use Photo Bucket.
Of course.
So that you can like click onto the photos and it takes you to somewhere. Like we were on that shit early.
Early.
You know what I'm saying? So like
MySpace.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter. BBM.
I had my Twitter since 2006.
BBM.
Yes.
That was my messenger.
We were sharing stuff through Facebook, MSN Messenger, like multi-sharing music. Like we were doing that back then, and because it wasn't like completely there yet, printing up the mixtapes and going on the street and standing out in front of all these different places and going across the country and all that. And like Trey the Rhyme Animal, salute to him. He went all across the country with his backpack and all that type of shit, like selling the physical copies. But we were early in the game, digital.
Digital.
We had the first digital deal over here in Canada back in the days.
What digital deal was that?
So salute to Hiphop Canada. Hiphop Canada got into the digital game back in 2006, right? And they wanted to start a digital company for that because they're a big website.
Yes.
Right? And we were heavy on the message boards in Hiphop Canada.
Of course.
Right? Drake too. Everybody was on the message boards. That was the place. That was the first like
platform
comment section type of thing. Was the Hip Hop Canada.
And salute to them.
Yeah. So with that, they started getting into the digital game of the record company stuff, and they joined with Koch Music at the time, and they started their first Hip-Hop Canada Digital.
Okay, for all of you youngins that don't know what Koch Music is, a reference is Koch Music. Diplomats were under there. Jim Jones. You know what I mean? Cameron. They got deals over there, okay, for being independent. Most Def,
all of them was over there, yeah.
So for their mixtapes were albums that record labels you're getting under 75 cents. These guys are getting $7 a unit. Yeah. And this is CDs.
And then Koch eventually became E1 Music.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
or E1
did it?
Entertainment, yes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and at the time when we signed to them, like it was 2007, they were transitioning into E1 Music. So by the time that we had our deal, it was Hip-Hop Canada, AWOL Records, E1 Music.
Okay.
Right? So when we put out the Get It album in 2009,
yes,
it was a digital release. So we had it released on iTunes, early iTunes.
Early.
Yeah, and we had it put out on
TuneCore. I was introduced to TuneCore early.
Yeah.
If all of you don't know TuneCore, CD Baby, you know, these type of platforms, even Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Who was it? The Big Mixtape. Anyway, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, but we were like super early in the digital game. Right, this is 2009 when that album came out, the Get It album. It's still available now.
It's still available.
Spotify. It's like I re-released it through TuneCore.
So do that. So tell them where to go.
It's on Spotify, and if you just put in Empire Get It on any listening platform, that album is there. All the credits, everything is there.
All of the Friday Ricky Dread and We Love Hip Hop fans. Okay, y'all should be going to do that if you really support this man.
Album.
If you really support this man, go do that right now.
Oh no. The Get It album is a classic. There's production.
Of course.
Tone Mason.
Of course.
OVO 40. He mixed pretty much almost all the album. You know what I'm saying? And the time when he was mixing that album, the So Far Gone mixtape was also being created.
Wow.
Right? He was mixing that out of the Remix Studios, okay, over on Sudbury Street over there in down near Parkdale. Okay? He was a teacher over there at the time. And he used to be able to use the studio after classes at the Remix, and he would get his mixing done, record artists in there. So he'd record us, do our mixing, as well as Aubrey Graham.
Wow.
Yeah. So
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now you've had a few. I gotta say this. I watch your podcast. I see you giving the boy a little hard time a little bit.
No.
Is it because, no, it's not. It's not in a negative way. It's, I mean, I have my theory, but I want to ask, is it because you're a fan? Are you trolling him? Like some things that you just asked, is it because you just really want to let the people, you know, he doesn't really let us get too close.
Let me show you something. When it comes to Drake, I have nothing but love for Drake.
Yes.
But I feel like I have an added connection because of the fact that we've seen him from the beginning. And it's just, I'm so honored to be able to see that evolution from the time he used to just be out around here on College Street or whatever, just like rapping, trying to get people to hear him, to where the hell he is now. Like, he's the biggest rapper in the world.
He's the biggest. Biggest artist.
But you could share say an engineer. You understand what I'm saying? We share an engineer. Like, 40 came from the Empire camp. You know what I'm saying? He's posted on his Instagram page when Empire has their Empire Day, which is July 1st, right?
Yes.
He'll post about Empire because that's true to his heart. That's his first productions and stuff like that, right? So like that connection with Drake, I have an added connection. This is why I feel like I have so much Drake information, because I lived it while it's happening. I'm seeing the whole come up. You know what I'm saying? The only time that I missed of his come up, and I was still watching from the TVs, is when I was in jail for a year. And then I came home and I started seeing he had an extra step up, and I was like, this guy's fucking, how much further is he gonna go? And this is 2011. Look at where he is now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he's borderline.
But I'm objective. So I'm not going to be like, everything Drake does is amazing. If he drops some lyrics that I don't think are hot, we make jokes. We got jokes on the show. You're going to get these jokes.
Yeah, I mean, I love the show. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
I really love how I'm just going to use him as a reference, but it's not that you're like him or anything, but I really love how you're doing the kind of Joe Budden approach, how you're doing it all yourself. You're making a network. You have your core people. Mm-hmm. You're building something that's going to sustain itself for time. And I know that you really love hip hop. We love hip hop. I know that. So it's very genuine. And I really think that everyone should support you because you are supporting the culture here in Toronto. So if nobody gives you your flowers, shout out Nori. If no one gives you your flowers, I want to give you flowers for that.
No, thank you.
Okay.
And I realized at one point, like, we started doing the show and it was just fun, right? And salute to Joe Budden because he was one of my inspirations. Charlamagne the God and Andrew Schultz, they had the Brilliant Idiots, which has been in existence for like 9 years.
Long.
Right?
Joe Budden longer though.
No, Joe Budden is after them.
Stop.
Right? Yes.
Joe Budden's been doing it for years. I remember when he was talking about like, oh my gosh. I remember listening to him.
But you're talking about pre-podcast.
No, he was always a podcast.
When he started the Joe Budden podcast or the I'll name this podcast later.
Yes.
That was around 2000. And it was about 7 years ago.
It's 2009.
It wasn't that long ago.
Yes, it was.
But besides the point. Joe Budden, Charlamagne the God, and Andrew Schultz with the Brilliant Idiots podcast. Combat Jack, R.I.P. Dante Nero and Alex Tarjanian. This is another show it's called Man School now. But it used to be called, don't worry about what it used to be called. But these are old audio podcasts that I just listen
me too.
To, right?
I just listen.
So when I started podcasting, I was using their blueprint. You know what I'm saying? Every episode of the We Love Hip Hop podcast has an audio version. What we're giving people is the reproduction of the audio version every week.
It's awesome.
Right? But the audio audience, the listening audience, gets the episode before anybody gets to see it. So every episode, every interview, it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on all the Stitcher, all the listening platforms. And then the video comes out hours later in the afternoon or sometimes even the next day. But people have already consumed the content in their earbuds. Okay.
So now getting into you being a podcaster.
Yes.
Like, what are some of the things about being a podcaster that you run into that like the average person wouldn't know?
But besides like just bumping into people
like
on the
fucked
road.
Up shit. Just I want to know something
fucked up shit
that happens to you podcast. Like
annoying shit to me is having to take down interviews. Right? It's my own fault because I should be sending out more release forms. But even with the release forms that I have sent out in the past, when somebody does an interview with me and people might take offense to this shit, they might be like, yo, I feel like I sound dumb. Or, yo, can you take down the whole interview because my image has changed? All that shit is dumb to me, okay? I might say things in this interview or any interview that I've done in the past that I might not stand by anymore. But I don't give a fuck. It's out there. I'm going to do another one and be like, hey, yeah, this is how I feel now. It doesn't mean I'm going to go hit up the old content creator and be like, yo, listen, can you take that interview down that you worked hard, got lighting, camera, fucking microphone, editing, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? So all you rappers out there, stop asking me to take fucking interviews down, okay? You're fucking annoying.
It happens.
It's not going to happen anymore.
Well, and that's another thing I was going to ask you. Like, now that you're, like, what is it like? What are your DMs like? Like, you're busy. I see you out there.
I've had crazy DMs. I've had DMs that tell me, yo, you're a pack. You know what I'm saying? I have DMs telling me, yo, you're one. I've never been called a goof to my face, okay? Because in Toronto, for
that's
people
crazy.
That's
you can't
the big
be called
word.
That.
The G word. Don't use the G word, right?
Yeah, what? We're not even putting that out there.
I've gotten that in the fucking DMs, comments, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I've received people sending me videos of them flashing their fucking burner, all kind of shit. Okay? All this shit that I've received is me outside of the streets now talking on microphones doing podcasting. So I've had actually more like stupid like hood beef shit that not I ever have to address because it's just hood internet. It's just internet thugs, right?
Yeah.
But and some real thugs too. Don't get it twisted. And some real thugs too. Like if you're gonna be able to flash a burner on me, flash a burner on your fucking Instagram or whatever.
Just because you have a burner don't mean you a real G
you're just stupid, but you might shoot somebody out of your stupidity.
Of course.
Right? So I don't fuck with them neither. I'm not trying to poke the bear, as they say when it comes to these kind of guys neither. But they exist.
They do.
Right? I haven't never had to deal with any of that type of shit for whatever amount of years that I was on road until I started talking on microphones and giving my opinions on the culture and shit.
And that's another thing. Like, look, it's happened to one of your one of your influences, Charlemagne, got his ass beat up. Yeah, I heard that was from a Lil Kim.
Yeah, it's the kind of get a drop moment, they call it, right? Because the person asked, like he was walking and the person said, yo, can I get a drop? And he turned around and boom, he got hit.
It's crazy.
Mind you, and not to put that type of energy out there. No. That type of shit has never happened to me.
Yeah. And
I'm really...
To be honest, you're so positive and you're putting the city on. I don't think anybody that did that would get any light. I think it would more backfire anyway.
You just got to watch for the phone. If you see somebody approaching you and then somebody's behind them with their phone up, then square up.
Yeah.
Or fight or flee or whatever what you want.
Fight or flight.
Right?
Fight or flee.
You look for the person behind the person with the phone because that means it's about to go down.
It was always like that back in the day in the club when you see people coming in the back door. Yeah. You're like, okay, we're out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you see the person coming at you and there's somebody behind you with a phone because they want to capture that moment where you're getting snuffed, then you know that it's coming.
Okay. Okay, so now I need to know, out of all the interviews you've done, did you ever fan out a little bit for any of them yet? Can you tell me?
Fan out?
Like, feel a little bit of a butterflies.
I can't really say. Like,
you would say it if you said it. So no, you haven't.
I haven't really, like, I'm excited to get the interview done. And that's even happened with local artists, you know what I'm saying? That are like bigger artists like Cardinal or Fishal, like, okay, we got it. All right. But it's not because of the size of the artist, pause. It's because I want to make sure I have it in the vault. We said we were booking it. Okay, cool. I won't believe it until it's actually like, we turned it off we finished the recording and I could look at my audio and I'm like, okay, we captured the audio. It's done. So that's where my anxiety comes from. It's not from, oh my God, I'm meeting, I don't know, Adam 22, that was a big deal for me, but like.
That's dope.
It was a big deal because am I going to get it done? Not, oh my God, it's him.
Can we get a We Love Hip Hop academic situation?
Eventually, yes.
I want to put that in the air.
No, you don't have to put it in the air. We've had conversations behind the scenes.
Also, S.A.R.S. It's going to come. He's going to come down and you're going to get that exclusive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's really dope. Mm-hmm. Like, other than Joe Budden, is there any influences of this type of talk entertainment that you've even far back?
Well, there's Joe, there's Charlemagne, there's Joe Rogan, right?
Love his.
Howard Stern.
Dope.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just from the radio aspect and just being somebody who's on the radio as a personality. So, like, there's people like that who I've been watching for a long space of time and not realizing them I'm watching the same kind of content before the internet was even a thing. Like even Ricky Lake. You know what I'm saying?
Remember that?
Yeah, like I've been watching people hosting and interviewing other people and, you know, getting
and
real moments.
You've always hosted shows.
Yeah.
You, even as their manager, you came out and introduced them.
Mm-hmm.
You did all that. You organized everything.
Yeah.
Like you were really like, and I see you now, even with what you're doing with We Love Hip Hop, like you're really doing it by yourself. And I fucking respect that.
Thank
and
you.
Nobody can take it from you. And I think that's really, really dope. And I'd really like to show the kids out there, you know, there's other mediums to this music stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you don't make it as the famous rapper, it doesn't mean that you can't fulfill your dream in this space.
Yeah.
Doing something else.
Yeah.
And you're a great example of that.
No, thank you. And yeah, like those people who I mentioned, you know, Joe does stand out because of the fact that, you know, he was a rapper before and, you know, it wasn't his most, he had a little bit of success.
He's one of Drake's favorite rappers.
Yes, but he wasn't enjoying being, yeah, I know this, but he didn't enjoy being a rapper.
Joe Budden.
Yeah. But he changed his occupation from being a rapper to a podcaster. You know, other people started doing it after.
But he had a hit. He had a hit. Let's be honest.
Yes, but then look at Nori. Nori changed his occupation from
being a rapper. Multiple hits.
Nori had platinum hits.
One of my first interviews was with Nori when he started his podcast.
Yeah.
And it's really dope because I seen him with the clips of the Bobby Shmurda. Mm-hmm. In one of my interviews, I told him how dope it was that him and Capone, when Capone was in jail, he was scared that Nori was going to just leave him. Yeah. War Report was coming out.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He like, ride or die. And I thought that was really cool. And I said that to him. And then I heard him say something dope to Bobby Shmurda about how he respected him holding down Rowdy. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever that is going on with whatever now, but that was really dope.
Yeah.
So do you feel like in the hip hop like scene now as opposed to back then, like do you feel like there's that type of vibe going on, or you think this is just Snitch Valley fucking I'm gonna snitch on myself?
Well, it's, you know, we got social media now, right? Social media is a big thing. People want an instant gratification, whether it's from good shit or bad shit, right? So a lot of these young guys, they grew up with the phone. They grew up with a tablet. A lot of them, we taught them the fuckery, right? When we were early in the YouTube game and all that stuff, people know me from Real Toronto and all these different, and there's DVDs back then, like Rap Sheet and Smack DVD and all that, where like guys had huge cameras like this.
Shout out Rap Sheet.
Yeah, but they were still willing to pull out the burner with a huge camera.
Crazy.
Right? So
Real Toronto, that changed our whole city.
So to see the evolution of these kids now, if they're like stitching on themselves on camera and all that, we're the ones who taught them, right? They're not like, oh, where the hell did these crazy kids come from? They're literally our babies.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Like the drill scene down to Chicago.
Yeah.
Down to
we've been
UK.
Drilling since 2000.
We've been drilling.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that. Go check out the Real Toronto. You can look it up. It's got to be somewhere.
We've been doing the crazy shit before there was cameras, and we were like, no, don't get on camera. And then when the camera came out, we were like, hey, look at this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't fault the youth. I don't like it, but I'm not like, what the fuck is wrong with you? No. I know what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
They learn they learn bad lessons from us, and it's our job now to teach them better shit. And us as older heads need to realize that we fucked them up. We have to take the accountability. I
feel like our generation is the one that if we don't do it now and we don't make our move as being grown and grow our asses up, like I'll just say it on a little level of like, it's now our turn to do the barbecues. Yeah. It's our turn to do the Christmas parties. Yeah. It's our turn to do whatever the fuck you do. Yeah. Like we got to put that shit on now. Yeah. It's the same way in hip hop. It's our turn to put these kids on because where are they going to go? Are they going to be retarded like us that didn't have any fucking... Yeah, because in the end of the day, if you're looking at a 20-year-old kid, they're a product of somebody from 2000. Maybe 2002 even.
And then I remember in 2000, 2002, I was out there wilding. I was out there fucking toting guns. I was doing all kind of crazy shit. This is all way past the stats, so I'm able to say it.
Yeah.
But me and my generation out there having all kind of wild sex and all kind of shit created these little babies. And taking E's and GHB and all that shit that we were doing back then evolved into the lean and Percocet babies.
I know all our brothers and sisters and kids just...
They were chemical babies. You understand what I'm saying? These kids that are 20 years old are chemical babies, right? Their
it's
parents
crazy.
did eat until their fucking spinal cords fucking broke down. You know
of course they're going to be wild.
Like I used to smash girls in 2000 that used to do coke until their fucking nasal passages broke.
That is crazy.
Right? Them people had kids.
Say no to drugs, y'all.
Right? But think about that. Back in 2000, if I'm smashing them and all of the man them from back then, them people had kids. And here they are now.
I feel like a lot of people would regret a lot of things if they knew they were going to have kids.
If they knew that their kids were going to pick up their fucking habits. They're not picking up somebody else's generation's habits. No. They're picking up literally my generation and maybe a couple generations behind habits.
It's what they see. It's not what you tell them. You can sit and tell your kids till they're blue in the face. What did we do?
I've hung out in homes back in the days when I was out there, wild boy in the streets, where the baby, and I'm talking about 2000, 2001, 2000. I'm there going to smash some girl at the crib and there's fucking Gucci Mane playing or whatever's playing in the crib and we're just wilding out in the next room and that kid is now 20, 22 years old and I'm interviewing him.
Insane.
Right? And he's going through car chases and shooting motherfuckers.
Okay. On that note, listen, if you have...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I smashed your mom and she wasn't paying attention to you or whatever. But like, this is what happened to them now.
No.
This is what happened to them now. Mom Dukes wasn't paying attention to them. Pop Dukes was in jail. And now they're 20 years old. They're on lean. They got the colorful burner on their waist or the ghost gun, and they're out here fucking
the neon green laser beam.
Yeah.
This shit is insane.
Yeah, but I know their parents. I used to hang out with them.
I feel like it's up to us, and if we don't guide them, then they're fucked.
The self-realization that I'm having,
and we're fucked too.
And I'm not a parent yet, but I know this. I'm saying this as person taking accountability. There's not enough of our generation or my generation who have that realization. They're like, what the fuck's wrong with these kids? It's us. So when we get it, like, oh, it was us who doing it, then we could talk to them more openly and be like, yo, fam, I know I went to jail. I know I was out there selling crack or whatever, but I don't want you to be the same as me. It might be too late.
No, tell them it's stupid because it is.
But like,
and nobody's going to go out and do 25 years for your ass. Don't ever think that, especially now. In the land of cameras, it's over. Nobody's doing that. There's a select few that are really going to hold it down. And I guarantee it's probably not somebody you're standing beside.
Yeah.
So you could do bad all by yourself and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Anyway, Friday, on that note, I'm going to definitely be following you. I would love to do this over and over again. You are honestly an inspiration. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Blessing Gemslife. Can you give me a little shout out?
Oh, shout out to the whole team. Shout out to Dusty Wallace holding me down on the weekly. Look out for his new show, The Realist Toronto Freestyle Show. You know what I'm saying? First episodes are about to drop soon. Big salute to Zetti's Hot Plates. Look out for her show, Cooking with Zetti's, popping off real soon. Big salute to Dracy. He's going to be on the road giving you streeter content, hitting people up, asking them questions on the street. Big salute to Alex Got Bands over in Montreal, Connect Montreal. We got the interview series that's popping off right now. All right. And then I'll be out there doing my interviews too. But the network is flourishing and growing. 2023. Oh my God.
Looks amazing for you.
I'm already planning to the middle of 2023. So for the people out there who are like, yo, Friday ain't gonna last till next year. Keep waiting, all right? Just keep waiting, my G.
Stay less. Until we meet again Friday.
Thank you.
Bless.